Morning, guys. One of the most difficult and challenging fears to overcome or control is the fear of death. And the reason is because it's the fear of the unknown. No one knows for sure. And that is the most challenging part. It's the uncertainty. I want to share with you a few things that have helped me, and I hope they help you. And by no means have I completely controlled this fear, but these are the things that have helped me. Number one is you have to have a definite purpose. And that purpose has to fill your mind, and it has to be focused on serving others. The second thing is to view death as mere transition, as change. If I view myself and everyone and everything in this universe as simply energy and matter. And so it's the constant rearrangement, reconfiguration of energy and matter over the years. I don't look at myself as just human. I see myself as a form of energy and matter. And I want to be the greatest possible energy and light for the universe. Have a great day, everyone.
If you're sitting down and you start thinking about some future worst case scenario that you're conjuring up in your mind, and you begin to feel the emotion of that event, your body doesn't know the difference between the event that's taking place in your world, outer world, and what you're creating by emotion or thought alone. So most people then, they're constantly reaffirming their emotional states. So when it comes time to give up that emotion, they can say, I really want to do it, but really the body is stronger than the mind because it's been conditioned that way. So the servant now has become the master. And the person all of a sudden, once they step into that unknown, they'd rather feel guilt and suffering because at least they can predict it. Being in the unknown is a scary place for most people because the unknown is uncertain. People say to me, well, I can't predict my future. I'm in the unknown, and I always say the best way to predict your future is to create it. Not from the known, but from the unknown. What thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? What behaviors do you want to demonstrate in one day? The act of rehearsing them mentally, closing your eyes, and rehearsing the action.
Rehearsing the reaction of what you want, or the action?
The action of what you want. By closing your eyes and mentally rehearsing some action. If you're truly present, the brain does not know the difference between what you're imaging and what you're experiencing in 3D world. So then you begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like the event has already occurred. Now, your brain is no longer a record of the past. Now it's a map to the future. And if you keep doing it, priming it that way, the hardware becomes a software program, and who knows, you just may start acting like a happy person.
The whole point of being an entrepreneur is to create your own future. That's why we start our own businesses. We want to build a new world. We want to be the change that we want to see, right? Why do you start a company? Why do you become an entrepreneur? Because there's a problem in the world that you don't like, that you want to fix, and you want to see it change. That's why we do what we do. The challenge is, how do you consistently believe in it? You know, because you have these moments, these days when you love it and you're on top of the world and you're on fire and you're motivated and you can do this. And then most days you'll wake up and feel like, who am I? I can't do this. I'm not good enough. And it's not going to happen, right? Has that happened to you? It's this roller coaster ride of ups and downs, of emotion and just belief that it's possible for you. I got asked yesterday, how did you make so many great contacts with huge people at the beginning of your career? And the answer is, I didn't. I didn't. I struggled at the beginning. I was nervous and shy and afraid and felt not good enough and never reached out to people. It was a long journey. One of the only reasons why I had any level of success is I just kept going. You know, 5 years in and having 7,000 subscribers, I just kept going. I just kept making. And I started entrepreneurship, thought leadership at 22 when I started making content. 22, I'm now 42 by the time this video comes up. So 20 years of making content, you know, eventually you make some connections and get good at something, but hopefully the process can be a lot faster for you. And the way through it is, I think, the environment. It's like, okay, how do you fix it? Well, environment. How do you consistently believe in yourself is the environment. It's what you're surrounding yourself with. It's the people in your life. It's the videos you're watching. It's the content you're consuming. It's the people you follow on Instagram. It's the environment. That when you are around the people that make you feel like things are possible, you will start to feel like things are possible. It's like whoever is more confident wins. So if you're around people who are constantly negative, telling you can't do it, gave up on their dreams, the chances of you being able to go chase your dreams around those people is really low. It's not impossible, but it's really low. And I think the people who've killed the most dreams are the people around us, right? Your parents, your friends, your environment, your community. They've killed your dreams. And ultimately, yes, it's your responsibility, but hanging around them and injecting their, not that they're haters or bad people, just their limited thinking and their unhappiness, right? They're hurt. They're struggling themselves. They don't like their own life and they're scared. They feel trapped. And so when you're in that position of fear and trapped and scared, you don't make good decisions and you also don't give great advice. And so how do we fix it? A couple things that I wish I did earlier. And so maybe you can use this as counsel to help you believe in yourself more consistently. So number one is to limit access or cut out the people who are feeding you negativity. If you're hanging around people who just make you feel worse about yourself, that every time you talk about your career, your dreams, or what you want to build, they tell you that it can't be done, that it's not possible, then limit access or just cut those people out of your life. It's just not worth it. And I say give the option because, you know, maybe that's your mom telling you that. Maybe that's somebody close to you telling you that. And some people do take the step to cut their parents out. That may not be how far you want to go, but at least limiting access so that if you're going to hang out with your mom, you're just not talking about your career. You're just not talking about your business. There's hopefully other things that you can connect on besides just what you're doing for a living or what your goals are, right? So cut those people out or limit access severely so that you don't feel so negative all the time. I think it's really important. Okay, so that then creates a void. Okay, well now who am I hanging out with? Because if you actually did an audit of the people in your life, you'd probably find that most of the people are not the ones that fill you up. You're the ones filling other people up. So we need to start finding people who do fill us up. So step 2 is to then join groups and to be around people and to be around the communities that are at least like-minded. You know, as somebody who's introverted and shy myself, it can be really hard. And I think as adults, it can be really hard to make new friends. You know, we're not going to school anymore. It's going to be hard to break into new communities. And so the easiest way to do that, especially if you're introverted and shy like me, is to join communities. So for me, I joined salsa dance school that I later bought. That's how I met my wife, Nina. I would join entrepreneur clubs. I would join If I wanted to meet new people, I would join anything that I'm interested in, right? I'd look for any entrepreneur conferences, personal development events or clubs, any book signings, just looking at trying to start to connect with people who are more optimistic and more happy and more positive, and just try to be around them more often. And the goal of going to an event like that isn't to even necessarily learn something. I think it's just to be able to connect with people. And if you go to a networking event, you go to a conference or some kind of personal development session, hopefully you're learning something, but make the goal to just try to meet somebody. Like there's one person here who might be the friend that you need, who might be the business partner that you need, might be the co-founder that you need. There's one person here that might be everything that you need, and you don't need to know all 1,000 people here. You just have to make one meaningful connection that maybe that turns into a mastermind or business partner or coffee meetups that can allow you to sustain the momentum and the belief that it's possible. That being around somebody else where there's 1 + 1 = 48, because the energy you create together. And the way to do that audit for yourself is just to think about, when I leave this person, do I feel more or less alive? Do I have more or less energy? Do I have more or less belief in myself? And when you have the people around you who make you have more energy and more belief in yourself, then you're more likely to go out and create your own future and create the world that you want to create, right? Where most of the people, again, we are pouring love and energy into them, and that's amazing, and keep doing that, and that's service, and that's awesome. But that can't be the only people in your life, because then you just are pouring into others and nobody's pouring into you. And so we need to start to add in those people, and they're out there. They're out there. They're for sure out there. I see it all the time in Movement Makers. That's my membership group for people who want to be thought leaders, and we meet every 2 weeks, and I train them and I help them. And more important than even just the education or knowledge they get from me is the connection and community to each other, where they're going live together. There's certain businesses together. They're sitting there making content, in their garage or their basement or their office, their home and their kitchen. And their family might be saying, "Hey, what are you doing making these YouTube videos? Are you crazy?" And now they're around other people who are doing the same thing as them. And it just breathes life and hope and possibility, because you've got a great heart and a great soul and great opportunities in front of you, and you want to serve, and it can happen. It can happen. It can happen for you. But again, your environment probably doesn't support it. And so it's now instead of blaming the environment and blaming your parents and everybody else, it's making a conscious choice to change the environment. So again, step 1 is to remove or limit access of the people who are making you feel worse about yourself when you talk about your dreams and your goals and your ambitions. Step 2 is to supplement in new people who do make you feel better, who make you feel more alive. And again, whether you're going to an event or conferences or joining a group like Movement Makers, but you're part of a community, so it's not just you doing it all on your own. Honestly, it's probably my biggest mistake when I was starting my journey, is just trying to do everything myself, mostly out of fear and insecurity, and being shy and afraid. But hopefully you can get there a lot faster, and that propels your growth forward. And then number 3 is be really conscious of what you're feeding into your mind with the content you consume. And so I think we have this wonderful opportunity on a daily basis to choose education or choose entertainment or choose creating a new world that we want and consuming the knowledge that allows us to build it, or escaping a world that we don't like anymore. Like if you see a problem in the world, you have a problem in your life, do you choose to fix it, to work towards it, or do you choose to just kind of ignore it and try to shut off the world, right? Most people will try to shut off the world and just be entertained, as opposed to, no, we got to fix this. We got to do something about this. And so think about the videos you watch. You're watching this video, so you're already on the path, but do an audit of everybody that you follow, do an audit of the channels that you subscribe to, do an audit of where you're spending your time, and see how much of it, how many of the channels that you subscribe to on YouTube, how many of the videos that you watch on YouTube are helping you build a better future for yourself, are training you to be a better person, giving you the skills and the knowledge to actually go and make that change, versus how many of the videos are you watching that are just pure entertainment or just shutting off your brain and shutting off the world and pretending like the problems that you've gotten and you want to solve don't exist, right? And I'm not suggesting that you never have entertainment. Just switch the ratio. If you want to change the world, if you want to create a new future for yourself, for your family, for the people around you, if you actually want to do that, then you have to start to change what you're feeding into your mind. And again, this channel is a great start. You're all the way through this video, so you're already on the path. And I mean, it's amazing. It's worth celebrating. You know, high five to yourself there. Congratulations. And it's the consistency that matters the most. So what are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing the next day? What videos are you watching the day after that? What videos are you watching next week and next month? And making that consistent, because again, it's easy to get excited. As entrepreneurs, it's easy to get excited and have one day where you feel on top of the world and amazing and holy cow, I can do so much and so many opportunities. And then it's easy again to the next day wake up and feel hopeless and impossible, and who are you to do this, and I can't do that, and there's no way that it's gonna happen, and why did I think this is, what a stupid decision, right? We beat ourselves up. And so that consistency in the environment is the thing that will make a difference. Let me tell you this, if you were hanging around people, even just one person, who was always working out, who was always fit, they would, even without them telling you, you would become more fit. You would work out more because you're around them, because the environment they create, if you respect them, would be one where you would now just want to work out more. And so it's the same thing for your dreams. When you are not around the people who are negative and who are trapped and who are in a lot of pain, and when you add in people and content that makes you feel alive and hope and possibilities and belief, great things start to happen. Great things start to happen. But it has to be consistent. A one-off video is not enough. Every day, put it into your calendar that whether it's a human being that you're actually talking to or content that you're feeding into your mind, that you're gonna show more belief in yourself, because your mission matters, because your heart matters, because you have a gift that the world needs, and because you want to create a new future, a better future for yourself, for your family, for the world.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Hey guys, today we're introduced to Les Brown in our top 10 rules for success. And Les shares with us a simple idea, but it's everything. And it is this. He tells us that we have 2 primary choices in life. Number 1 is we can accept conditions as they are. Or number 2, we can take responsibility for changing ourselves and changing those conditions. So one of them, the first one, accepting conditions as they are, puts us in simply the victim mode. Things are just happening to me. I can't control it. This is the way it is. The second choice, taking responsibility of what we do with what happens to us, puts us in control. And it puts us in the driver's seat of doing something about the things that happen to us. So 2 really basic primary choices in life, and that's really the essence of what is going to determine what you become and what you provide for others. Have a great day, everyone.
The way to win is as old as time. Do the right thing and put in the work. There's just nothing else. By the way, there's nothing else in anything. How do I become a professional hockey player? Talent and effort. How do I become a tremendous top 1% lawyer? Talent and effort. How do I become a phenomenal mother? Talent and effort. It's talent and effort. And what I love about effort and why I love hustle, and now that it's become so cliche, you see me saying the word work a little bit more now because I just want people to get it, It's controllable. You know how many people here want to be a millionaire? Do you know how rare that is? Have you run the math? You have this enormous audacity, yet you're not putting in the work to get you there because you think somehow you've been tricked by yourself or somebody else that there's some system. Like, really? We're at a place now where kids think it's cool if somebody goes and takes money out of a bank and puts it on their bed and takes a picture of it? Like, what the does the matter with you? You know what really sucks? It sucks when you buy a $20,000 Rolex and the world collapses and you have no money and your Rolex is worth $4,000. That sucks. That's why I always say I'm a tortoise in a hare's costume. You know zero people that have built something big that haven't put in a ridiculous amount of work. And the bigger it is, the more they've worked. So I think you have to execute against your truth. People can smell things. So many of you have your mouth way ahead of your actions. Really? You're gonna own an island and you go to Coachella? You. When it comes from a true place, you win, and when it doesn't, you don't. Like, I wasn't born 6'7" and can run like a cheetah. I could wish I was something, or I can realize I am something and try to maximize on that. It's a game of poker. You get a hand. Nobody's gonna cry for you about your hand. Nobody's gonna say, oh, it's terrible that you're not fast or tall or gorgeous or can sing. It is what it is, and now the only thing that can happen is you can figure out how to navigate it. The second you stop dwelling and the second you start doing, everything changes. They don't give a f***. The second you understand that and just start trying to make shit happen with that energy, you win. Nobody cares about my problems. Nobody has ever cared about my problems. My problems seem far less silly now. I got problems. I don't want to be here on a Saturday when my family's not here. I got problems, but guess what? I made my bed. I'm making my choices. I got my reality. Every single person here has all of you. You all have. Do the white dudes have it better? Yes. Guess what? They still have. Everybody's got. And nobody cares about your. They care about their because everybody's got. So nobody cares about your complaining. Go do something, and that's it. Like what? You think somebody's gonna come along and be like, oh, we're so sorry. They don't care.
I'm here for a reason.
You got it, that's it.
Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know you've got something more inside you too. You've got Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and learn the 7 rich people habits that you need to try. Enjoy. Habit number 2 is read books with Jay Shetty.
So many of you have been asking me, Jay, how do you read so many books? How do you get through them? What's your strategy? What's your approach? Do you even sleep? The answer to all those questions is in this video. Now, how many of you have a stack of books that's taller than you that you really want to read this year, this month, this week, and it just keeps growing? And you keep looking at your schedule and thinking, I've got less time this week than I had last week. And maybe you're thinking, I don't even know where to start. Reading is super important. I've found it really fulfilling in my life and really useful and insightful as well. I want to share with you what some of the most successful people in the world think about books. Warren Buffett says that he spends 5 to 6 hours a day reading 5 newspapers. Bill Gates reads about 50 books a year, mainly business, health, engineering, diseases. Mark Zuckerberg says that he reads books to learn and educate himself about different cultures and backgrounds. Oprah calls reading her personal path to freedom. Mark Cuban says that he reads to learn about new industries. Now, this is going to tell me how old you are. If you remember the Britannica Encyclopedia, Elon Musk said that he read that by the time he was 9 in total. And this is my favorite one. Phil Knight, the CEO of Nike, said that he kept his library so sacred that when people entered it, they had to take off their shoes and bow down. So there's plenty of good reasons why you should read, but you really need to know your own. That's my #1 tip. You need to know why you're going to read a book. Is it because you want to be entertained and have an escape? Is it because you want to learn new information and grow? Is it because you want to find new ideas about how to improve your life? The closer you get clarity on your vision for why you're reading a book, the more likely you're going to be a successful reader. Now, before we go into how I read a book a day for 365 days, I want to talk to you about the biggest mistakes we make as readers. One of the biggest mistakes we make is that we think that books need to be read cover to cover, whether they're this size or this size. Now, the interesting thing is that not all books are written in that way. It's kind of like saying when you go shopping for your groceries that you need to walk through every aisle to just find the things you needed.
This is taking way too long.
You never do that. You take a list, you go to the specific aisles, and you grab what you need. Books are no different. You can find, especially with non-fiction books, which is what I'm talking about today, you can find what you need much quicker and make it much more useful than going through every single page. The second biggest mistake is that we make reading all about willpower instead of love power. If you're dragging yourself through a book and trying to get through to the last page, and every page is a struggle and feels heavier than the last one, and the words seem to get smaller every single time, and your eyes are getting tired, it means you're relying on your willpower and you're not quite making it through. But really, we should be relying on our love power. If there's something you really love, something that you're excited to learn, something that you're energized when you hear about, speak about, or read about, that's where you want to throw your energy. Don't just read a book because someone told you to. Don't just read a book because it was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Read a book because you're passionate about that subject. Okay, so those are the biggest mistakes. I'm now going to show you how I read a book a day for 1 whole year. Now, I'm not going to be teaching you a new technique that's going to take you a year to learn before you even start reading, or something that you need to practice. I'm going to share really practical, simple tips on how to read more, faster, better. So the first thing I do before I start reading a book is I find the TED Talk. I find the YouTube video that's going to tell me all about that person's big idea. What I'm trying to do here is grasp the concept of the book as quick as possible. It allows me to understand the essential principles, the underlying thought behind the book from the author without having to invest a week or a month or however long it takes to actually finish a book for you, or maybe never. So being able to watch that TED Talk, watch that YouTube video allows you to figure out whether you even feel that that topic is compelling, whether you feel attracted to that subject, or whether you feel you understood it from the talk and might not even need to read the book. Basically, my point is that talk should let you know whether that book is worth reading for you. It should inspire you to want to go and order it straight away. If it doesn't, it's probably a good idea to skip.
No, I'm not going to read this.
And you don't lose anything. You've just watched a 15-minute talk and learned loads of new stuff. So I'm going to talk you through a book that I read last year. It's called The Organized Mind. This could be any book. I'm just using this as an example because it has some highlights in it. The first thing I do when I get a book, after I've watched a YouTube video or a TED Talk, I highlight the sections that I really find interesting. Most books today, self-development books, personal growth books, are all split up into parts. Here you can see part 1, part 2, etc., etc. And the first thing I do is I highlight the sections in that book that stick out to me straight away. It's like going through a menu and saying, oh, I really like the sound of that. I'd love to taste it. I really like the sound of that. That's what I want to learn about. And that requires you to be really conscious of what you're willing to gain from the book. So as you can see here, what I've highlighted in part 1 is too much information, too many decisions. I want to improve my decision making, so I've highlighted that. In part 2, I've highlighted organizing our social world. I'm super interested about how humans connect, and so I've also circled that bit. Here, I'm making a selection of the parts of the book that I want to read. I always recommend reading chapter 1. The author has put so much energy into that chapter that you definitely shouldn't miss it. But after that, make sure you're highlighting the spaces that you're really going to dive into. I recommend highlighting 1 to 2 chapters from each part. Now, you may be thinking, do I start from the introduction? Some introductions actually teach you how to read the book. If an author's done that, that's incredible. Make sure you read that introduction. Apart from that, you can start at chapter 1 and then make your way through.
Let's do this.
So now you've circled the chapters of interest, you can dive straight into them. And as you get into them, I'm going to give you a few quick tips on how you can make that process faster and more useful. Now, if you're someone who loves audiobooks, there's these really cool apps that actually speed up how quick you can hear. Now, if you're a reader like me, there's a way of doing that too. When you're reading, as simple as it sounds, it works. You can use your finger as a guide. The more you speed up your finger, times 1, times 2, times 3, the quicker you'll be able to read. It's the same thing audiobook apps are using right now. You listen at speed 1 and then move to speed 2 and move to speed 3. You're simply using your finger as the ability to start reading faster. It actually does work. The other thing you can do is focus on the most important words in a sentence. We've all seen those examples where you could actually read words and paragraphs where all the letters and all the words are jumbled up because our brain is able to process the bigger picture quicker. What I recommend is focus in on the more stronger words in a sentence. Hence, if a sentence has 12 words, you can read the most important 4 to 6 words and still extrapolate the same meaning. Even inside a chapter, you can skip to subheadings and divisions that you find fascinating. We have this fixation on reading every word, finishing every book, and finishing every page. The reality is, most of us never let that happen. The tips I'm giving you are going to help you read a book within 2 hours or a day and help you decide whether you want to read the book cover to cover. Now imagine if you spent a month or 2 months reading a book and afterwards felt, well, what did I gain from that? What did I learn from that, if anything? What if you read it in 2 hours and then had the opportunity to decide to read the whole thing? I guarantee you, when you do it in this way, you'll be able to read books that you really, really value. Another way to speed up the reading process is read the first 3 lines and last 3 lines of paragraphs that you think you might be interested in. If you're not sure, when you do that, you'll be able to quickly contextualize whether that paragraph has insights that you really want to know. Authors place a lot of emphasis in starting and ending paragraphs with key information. You'll be able to grab it and decide if you want to read the rest. The interesting thing is, when we read, even though it feels like we're flowing across the words, it's not true. Our eyes are actually doing a stop-start motion. And when our eyes stop, we're able to grab information. And when they start, we move to the next. So that loses a bit of time. Now, when you're trying to look at the most important words, you're able to grasp 90% of the meaning with just looking at 30% of the words. It also stops your eyes from having to constantly do a stop-start motion, trying to flow when actually you're jumping to the most important words in the sentence. Try it out with 3 or 5 sentences and see if it works for you. Now, not all these tools are going to work for you straight away. Some of the more simple ones you can put into practice right away. I also make sure that after a chapter, I write down what I call the 3S formula. I write down a story that really inspired me or moved me. I write down a statistic that I thought blew my mind. And the third thing I do is I make a note of something I want to share with someone else. That's a great way of getting more out of a book. Now, if you're not inspired by a book, drop it. Finishing a book is nowhere near as important as actually learning from it and gaining from it. Our success metrics for reading books is how many we've finished versus how much we've actually learned. So try out whichever of these tips that work for you. Make sure you start off by watching that TED Talk, watching that YouTube video to grab the essence of the book. The second thing you want to do is highlight the key chapters and areas that you really want to dive into. Remember, it's just like going shopping. You don't need to go through every aisle to get what you want. Remember, you can grab as much information as you need just from the first 3 lines and the last 3 lines of every paragraph to decipher whether it's relevant to what you're reading for. And remember, when you're reading, if something's not inspiring you, it's not motivating you, you're not learning from it, don't drag yourself through it. Find the next book and get working.
Habit number 3, shift your identity with Ed Milet.
Here's the thing. If you're feeling helpless, one of the antidotes to feeling helpless is to get more helpful. And one of the ways you can be most helpful is to raise your own identity. Our identity is the core part of our lives. We're not going to outperform our identity. Our identity, best said, is it's the thoughts, concepts, and beliefs we hold to be the most true about ourselves. It's really the invisible force in all of our lives that holds us back or can accelerate our success, our bliss, our achievements to whole new levels. If you look at identity, if you think about it, it's almost like it's a life thermostat. See, in this room right now, there's a thermostat sitting on that wall right now. And if it's set at 75 degrees, this room is going to be regulated to 75 degrees. No matter what the external conditions are, it could be 100 degrees outside. The external factors do not impact the internal thermostat in this room. It's 75 degrees. Consequently, also, if it was 40 degrees outside, the heater will come on. It'll heat this room to 75 degrees. That's how your identity works. It's the internal thermostat of your life. And that's why very often, let's say that, relationships or financially, you're a 75 degreer. And if you ever notice in your life, as you start to heat life up a little bit, it starts to go pretty well. Maybe your relationship's blissful and loving and incredible, or financially, you've increased your results. You're at 80, 85, 90, 100 degrees of success financially or in business. And then it just seems coincidental, but somehow, some way, the air conditioner kicks on in our lives. A car breaks down, an event happens, we lose an account, something takes place, and all of a sudden we look up and boom, life's back at 75 degrees of relationship, of money, of business. That wasn't by coincidence. It is the regulator of your life, is your identity. And so if you can do all the right things, all the activities, all of the thinking, all of the execution part, but if you don't increase what you believe you're worth, if you don't increase that identity, that thermostat of your life, you will find a way to cool your life back down to what you believe you deserve. And so one of the keys for me in my life is not just getting better at the mindset of life and the execution of business or strategy, but raising that identity so that I'm at 85, 90, 100, 120 degrees, so that I believe I'm worthy of it as my execution and my thinking reaches the same level, that thermostat setting, that life setting will change. It's not the external conditions of our life that dictate the terms. It's that identity. It's that thermostat setting. So we got to get more helpful if we feel helpless. And the way we do that is by increasing our own identity, that thermostat setting. That sounds great, doesn't it? So how do you do that? Well, I call it the holy trilogy of shifting one's identity. And that is faith, intention, and association. That's the three things you must work on in order to increase your thermostat setting. Number one, faith. For me, it's the center part of my life, is that I have a God who loves me, that believes in me, that wants to see me successful, wants to see me prosper, wants to have favor in my life, wants me to feel comfort and peace. And so I find oftentimes it's interesting, people of faith sometimes, God's in their life Sunday at church when they're worshiping, or they're in Bible study, or when they're eating a meal, they'll pray over it. But somehow when they walk into a business meeting, a speech, a boardroom, a client environment, they leave God at the door and they think they're on their own. So for me, if you're a person of faith and God is with you all the time, and he loves you all the time, and he comforts you all the time, that includes business. That includes every area of your life. It includes him wanting to bless you with a great relationship, bless you financially, bless you to the best of your abilities in business. And then whatever the other, if you're an athlete watching this, bless you in that at bat, over that putt, catching that football, hitting that shot. And so number one source of shifting your thermostat setting is reconnecting again with your faith and allowing yourself to feel it inside all the other environments that exist. Then there's number two, there's your intentions. See, I don't think enough people give themselves credit for having great intention. There's a power to intention in our lives. And so what most of us think is, I'll feel better about myself, or I'll be more confident when I get that job, when I get that relationship, when I get this amount of money, when I get that house, when I hit that home run, when I'm hitting a certain average, right? And so you're always chasing your tail. If your identity and your confidence is contingent upon producing a result that has not yet existed, it's pretty difficult to catch it, isn't it, if you have to have it to get it in the first place? Instead of saying, maybe I ought to get credit and I ought to be worthy of more because I intend to do well. As a young man in business, I started to figure out, I may not have all the answers. I may not be the smartest, the best looking, the most articulate. My IQ isn't 250, but I intend to serve. I intend to make a difference. I make mistakes, but overall, I'm a good person who wants to do good in the world, and I should be favored because of that. Not enough of you are giving yourself credit for your intentions. You want to shift your identity overnight? Connect with your faith. You want to double shift it? Connect with your intentions. So when I go into a business meeting, or I go into a lunch, or I'm going into any type of encounter, even in my golf life, in my sport I play, I remind myself that I've got a God who loves me, who wants me to win, who wants me to be blessed, who wants me to be favored, who wants me to feel peace. Number two, I intend to do good. I'm a decent human being. And you know what? Good things ought to happen to good people. And then third is association. You are who you hang around. See, if you're a 85 degree or 75 degree or financially, but you start hanging around someone, say like myself, who lives at 140, 150 degrees of finances and wealth and abundance, you will get heated up by proximity to somewhere in between the two of us and a lot closer to where I am than where you are. Same thing in relationships. If you want to have a great loving relationship in your life, but you're living at 75 degrees in your relationships, you start hanging around people who are in loving, beautiful relationships, your thermostat setting will increase. Same within your faith life. If you want to start walking with more faith in your 75 degrees of faith, if you start hanging around people who walk their faith life at 100, 150 degrees, you'll be heated up through proximity. And so these are the three things we do in order to shift our lives. Our identity is the governor on our life. It is the most powerful force in the world. It's the invisible force that governs everything, is that thermostat setting. And then if that's true, the way we shift it is always going to be our faith, our intentions, and our associations. And those associations are so huge. I know you've all heard you're the product of who you hang around the most often, but look at the last 90 days of your life, okay? And ask yourself this question. Other than, say, your spouse or children, who are the 2 or 3, 4 people you've spent the most time with? Picture their faces in their lives right now. And then I want you to measure one thing. What's their emotional maturity like? See, what I find with all successful people is they have a degree of emotional maturity that other people are absent of. So I always measure, what's their emotional maturity? How do they handle success? How do they handle failure? How do they handle their lives? Then ask yourself this. These 3 or 4 people you've been around, can you immediately name 2 or 3 things that they have in their life in an area that matters to you? Let's say it's money. Let's just say it was money. that they have that you don't have that you wish you did have? Or in relationships, can you name 2 or 3 things in their relationships that they have that you wish you had? Or in business, or in their physical body? And if you can't immediately go, yeah, they got 2, 3, 4 things, man, I would love to have that in my life, then I'm not so sure that that's the person you ought to spend the most time with. The reverse question is also, hey, can you name 2 or 3 things they have that you definitely don't want? When you look at their financial life, if finances are important to you, do they have 2 or 3 things going on in their life financially you definitely want no part of? Or in their relationship life, if you want a better relationship, if you look at the relationship, there are 2 or 3 things like, I wouldn't want that relationship. I don't like the way he or she treats them, or they get treated. You can look at that. Or their physical body. You want to be in really great shape. You look at them. Do they have 2 or 3 things about their health or wellness that you don't think are really great? Well, that's an immediate sign maybe they're the wrong people. And so taking an evaluation of who your associations are they emotionally mature? Do they have the 2 or 3 things you would like to have in your life they have in theirs that you'd like to get heated up and get? Or do they have 2 or 3 things you want to avoid? These are signs that you should be away from them. So the way we get more helpful is we increase our identity, and we increase our identity by working on our faith, our intention, and our associations. If you do those 3 things, I believe you're going to live happier, you're going to help other people become happier, you're going to make a contribution in people's lives that's deeper and more meaningful than you've ever made before. And by the way, lastly, that's what you were put here to do. You were put here, you were born to do something great with your life, in small ways and big ways. You were made to do something awesome with your life. Maybe not all of it's going to get limelight or notoriety, but you were born to make a difference in the world. And the more you realize that, the more you step into your intention, the more you step into the person you're capable of becoming, the more you just decide, I'm raising that thermostat setting. I'm no longer this other character I was playing. At any point, you and God are the authors of your life. You can grab the pen and start to write a new chapter and say, I'm stepping into this new character. Their identity's higher. They're more faithful. They focus on their intentions more often. They improve their associations, and they help people.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Habit number 4, be solution-oriented with Dean Graziosi.
How many times in life when things go wrong do we spend too much time trying to figure out why it happened? We do. Relationship goes bad. We want to dig in. We have our egos take over. We get passionate. We get pissed. And how could that happen to me? And why would he do that? The nerve of him, or the nerve of her, or why'd my partner take advantage of me? And we spend all this energy going in what direction? Backwards, the wrong way. And we don't realize that the quickest way to the next level is just to mourn it if you have to, be sad about it, but the fact of the matter is you can't go backwards. You can't undo the situation. You spill a glass of milk, you can figure out who spilled it, why it spilled, is it gonna stink, is it gonna create mold, or you can just get a towel and a new glass of milk. But we take it more serious than that. And the thing is, if you're consciously aware of it, you will catch yourself focusing on why it happened, what went wrong. Yes, you wanna think about it enough to prevent it from happening in the future, but then the rest is solutions. I started this thing, I talk about my kids a lot. If you guys ever watch my weekly wisdoms, the greatest gift in my life is my kiddos. And I learned so much from them. They're 7 and 9. I got to break it down so simple for them to get it that it teaches me every time I try to give them a lesson or teach them. But literally with my kids, I started this about 6 months ago, and I'm not saying you guys are kids, but I do this now myself, even though I made it up on the fly with my kids. But when something comes up and something goes wrong, I literally say, hey, let's grab a piece of paper. And I'm like, give me 4 things that could probably solve this. I have baseball, I have this at the same time, and I forgot my homework. Like, how do we solve it? How do we solve it? I'm just trying to get them in this rhythm of understanding that the quickest way to fix this is to focus on the solutions. And not only do solutions help because you actually have a solution, it puts your mind in a different frame. You get to think where you could go, what you could learn from it, how you could solve this. And if you can make this automatic thinking, it's really this, and this,
we all suffer on a certain level, right? We all suffer. Things we suffer with work. We suffer if the relationship isn't bad. We suffer if somebody didn't invite us someplace. We suffer if we felt left out. We suffer if our kids are hurting. Yeah, we're all going to have that. But you could shorten that distance when you're disappointed or when you fail. The quicker you get to focusing on how to fix it is the length of your suffering. How many people do we know that had a really bad relationship and suffered for years focusing on what went wrong? Didn't get involved in the new relationship, had heartache, had pain. Finally, one day they got over it and said, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to go back to the gym. I'm going to start dating. I'm going to go to Match.com. It's like you can decide how long that suffering is. There's no timeline. Sometimes we wear suffering and our stress and our anxiety. We wear it as a badge of honor because sometimes it does help drive you to another level, doesn't it? And then that's kind of a success trap. Like I need to worry and stress and suffer to motivate. No, you really don't need to. You don't need to. I went years thinking you had to. You don't. You don't. Focus on a solution. Let someone else suffer. You don't need to.
Habit number 5, master your schedule with Russell Brunson.
I used to think that I was a master of my schedule. I would start working on a project, and next thing I knew it'd be 4 a.m. and I'd be like, nothing actually got done, right? Or I'd forget things, or I'd miss appointments, like all sorts of stuff. So for me, there's a couple layers of this. Number one, I bought a huge calendar that's in my office that blocks out the big things, like when are the big events happening, when are the trips, like what are all the big things happening so I can see like a macro level of my year at a glance. And then inside there, then I go into my computer or my phone, I've got Google Calendars where I block out my daily schedule, right? Here's my morning routine, here's the things I do every single morning and every single night and every single lunch that I need to be able to progress myself forward in whatever aspect of my life I'm working on. And then on top of that, the third tier then is all the tasks that I do throughout the day that are very specific to what I'm working on right now. I gotta go film this video right here. I gotta go meet with this person. I gotta do this conference. I gotta have this time blocked out to be able to think or to write or whatever things might be. And so blocking out that time and then being very, very protective of it, right? I do not share that time with anybody else. If it's blocked out on the calendar, it has been claimed, it's taken, nobody else can have it. I'm gonna be focusing on that in the moment, being as present as humanly possible and not worrying about all the other things and all the distractions that are happening. And that way you can actually get your things done by the end of the day instead of spending weeks at a time going until 3 or 4 in the morning hoping and praying you finally get the projects done.
Habit number 6, regain your focus with Tom Bilyeu.
What steps can I take to bring my focus to the one thing I'm working on while blocking out all else? All right. So the real key is you've got to learn to compartmentalize. So what I do to begin my compartmentalization is I create a list of all the important things that I should be working on. I put that list in order. This is very important. Getting good at prioritizing is an art form. It is critically important that you get good at that art form. And as you begin to break things down and put them in order, now you can tell yourself, hey, this is what I should be working on right now. So rather than trying to digest all the different things that have to be done, it's I'm focused on this one thing right now. And my only job right now is to focus on that thing. And so by not letting your mind wander, and this meditation is very good at bringing your focus back to the breath, which teaches you to bring your focus back to whatever. So I've got a lot of things, many things competing for my attention, but I know what my important things are. I'm working on the number one thing right now, let's say. And so this is my entire world. And if I find myself wandering, I bring myself back. Now, part of the reason that I can invest so heavily in that is because I have the belief that that's the most effective way to work. So since behaviors follow beliefs, you want to make sure that you put that belief in place, which is true, by the way, that you can do everything that you want to do, just not all of it at once. So everything has to be done sequentially. You can't do everything at the same time. And this is why you have to prioritize things out. So if we know that multitasking is actually a myth and that you can put people in brain scanners and what you're seeing, people who seem like they can multitask, what they're doing is called rapid switching. So they don't have what I have, which is high switching costs. When I get in a flow, man, I can go and go and go. But if I try to bounce back and forth between things, then I pay this high price and inefficiency between the switching costs of moving from switching from that task to this task. So I focus, I stay on one thing, I have them in order, I know what I'm working on, I remind myself that I only have one job in that moment, that is to work on that thing. I know that that's the most efficient way to work, and I know that I'm good at prioritizing things, so it becomes very easy, boom, boom, boom. And then you just hold yourself accountable to actually doing that. Practice makes perfect. You might have a difficult time in the beginning. Start meditating if you need to train yourself to come back to the breath over and over and over. And then you can just apply that to whatever you're working on. Come back to the project.
And habit number 7, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is have a journal with Nate O'Brien.
One of the first habits that I adopted was journaling. Now, I don't like to call it this because for the most part, 90% of what I write down on an everyday basis is primarily business oriented, but people have different reasons for writing things down. I think it's very important for people to essentially dump their thoughts and have them on paper somewhere written down. Now there's a variety of reasons for this, one of them being that it helps with clarity when thinking about long-term goals, especially if you're trying to build wealth or you have specific goals for yourself in the coming years. By writing them down and having that there for yourself to look at, there can be times where maybe you have some struggles, maybe you have some problems or something that you need to overcome. You can go back and look at what you wrote, look at what you were thinking last week, last month, 5 years ago, to better understand your direction that you should be or you had planned on going when you were writing things down. Now, this is also great for other things not related to business. I think people who are struggling with depression or struggling with issues in their life, writing it down can, in a sense, be somewhat therapeutic. And I think it can be all around a positive for most people to just write things down, dump your thoughts onto paper. And I go through one of these probably almost every quarter. I just write down a lot of my ideas in them, and it really does help me a lot with everything in my life. And I go back over these after the year and I look at what I wrote down, and sometimes I laugh, sometimes I think, wow, this is great that I've been hitting some of these goals, I've been lacking here, but I'm gonna write down more in the future.
Morning, guys. One of the things that's helped me so much, and I really hope this helps you in my path to infinite mind wealth and living, laughing and loving it, and I do. And so I laugh at this now. See, one of the things we have to remember is that whatever we are, whatever we're seeking in others, like if we're seeking some sort of change, we might really want our friends, our spouse, our coworkers, whatever it is, we want that change in them. Sometimes we might get frustrated. Sometimes we might have negative thoughts towards them. But we have to realize that that negative thought that we put out towards others is really who we are right now. And I laugh at myself because I make mistakes. I fail at this all the time. But every day I try to control my mind, because that which we are seeking to change in others is really a change we're seeking within ourselves. So it all starts with what we are, and we have to work on ourselves every day. So whatever you are is what you will share with everyone else. Have a great day, everyone.
I'm consistently asking, like, what's the feeling I want to have here? If you ever see me teach, it's often, I always say, bring the joy. So I have joy triggers that I've set up in my mind that makes me more intentional about things. So for example, I have a door frame trigger. Whenever I walk through a door, I say, bring the joy. So when I walk through that door right there, it's like, bring the joy into this room. It's just a mental trigger that I've set up for myself. Every morning in the shower, I ask myself 3 questions. The first question I say, what can I be excited about today? So it forces me to be clear about what's gonna draw joy, enthusiasm from me. Number 2, I say, what might trip me up today? Because usually I know what's going on in the day. I'm like, what might mess me up? Where might not perform well? What might bother me? And number 3, I say, what can I do to surprise somebody today? To give a gift of appreciation or acknowledgement today? And so I think through that in the morning. So I think that helps me begin my day pretty clear. Then when I sit down before I do work, I literally look at my calendar of the day. I did this morning, and I look at whatever's going on in the day, and I think about it for 20 minutes. It's one of my 20-minute routines in the morning. I literally think about my calendar for 20 minutes a day. People think that's crazy, but what I'm thinking through when I'm looking at the calendar, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have that call. what do I want to happen on that call? You know, what's my intention for that call? What's my goal for that call? What's the feeling for that call? How do I want to end that call? You know, I'm gonna have that time with Lewis. Like, how do I want to be there? And how can I make sure I enjoy it? Because it's a big deal. You know, I love your show. I want to do a good job. I want to share something good for the people, even though I have no idea what you're going to ask. I want to be present for that and make sure I'm really there, even though maybe I have a head cold today. You know, it's like it's like just thinking through it.
Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 of Believe Nation because I love it.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Brendan Burchard, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, strive to reinvent your life.
That first thing we all want a greater sense of is aliveness. And I always come back to this. Right? Reinvent your life for what? Well, could you reinvent your mindset, your habits, your peer group, your work efforts, so you have a greater sense of aliveness? Aliveness is that sense of vibrancy, of being, of passion, of presence in spirit in the moment. We all want to feel that. The good news is we can usually get aliveness to exactly what, Jonathan Fields talks about, which is savoring the moment more. We can feel greater aliveness when we up our health, right? Get better physical health, to have more energy, we can feel that. What else do we reinvent towards? Well, we always talk about another corner of the triangle of being about connection. Specifically, we want connection with ourselves and connection with other people. This usually is about the area of your life called relationships, right? We want to improve, deepen our relationships, increase intimacy and vulnerability, just feel more real and connected with other people. Sometimes that changes your communication approach with your partner or your spouse. Sometimes that changes your partner or your spouse. I'm just teasing you. I don't know what you need to reinvent, but it is a major area of concern, isn't it? Another major part of that triangle is meaningful pursuits, right? A sense of fulfillment or meaning in the act of progressing in our lives or creating in lives or leading in lives or building in our lives. That we want meaning and fulfillment, but specifically we want meaningful pursuits. Because some people have meaningful pursuit. They actually have a lot of meaning in their life, but they're not happy. Meaning does not always equal happiness. It always throws people off. They're like, I have all the reasons in the world to be happy. I have a meaningful life. I don't know why I'm not happier. I'm like, oh, well, meaning and happy they're different things, right? What can add on to meaning to make it more happy is aliveness and connection, but also pursuit, right? We are human beings. We love to chase something. We love to build something, to be in progress, to be in motion, doing something meaningful does bring us more happiness, right? You can have happiness without everything being perfectly meaningful, right? I can eat a piece of chocolate with green tea and I'm happy. There ain't nothing meaningful in it. It's just a moment, right? So you can have happiness separated from meaning, clearly, but when we are pursuing something that matters to us and brings fulfillment, that makes a difference. And of course, in the middle of that triangle of aliveness, connection, and meaningful pursuits is growth. The sense that we are growing. Now, I've taught you this growth day model many times, so I won't belabor the point, but I do want to always re-aim us at those things. Because after 15 years of coaching people one-on-one and in large groups, there's no question to me that after we have security and safety in some level, those are the things we're always striving for more of. More aliveness, more connection, more meaning, and more growth.
Rule number 3, fill your life with love.
What you find meaningful and fulfilling tends to come from things that you are doing, meaningful pursuits, that you find intrinsically and deeply interesting or passionate or even obsessive, in that you're like, I just love this thing so much. And the more that you love something, the more that you tend to find it to be fulfilling. And so we've got to allow ourselves to pursue our interests and our passions to the place of love. That when you have love in your life, you are more in connection with what will make you feel fulfilled, and it will be in more connection of what you will later on ascribe as a meaningful life. I never met a person in all my years of researching personal development, reading all the great biographies, being with psychologists and sociologists and psychiatrists, and being with people in hospice at the end of their life, never met a single person to talk about, think about, write about, research, or experience a meaningful life absent of love. Not a single, never done it. I haven't read a spiritual text that love wasn't the center of what humankind's meaning is. I've never read any research that has found a happy person who didn't have deep, meaningful, connected, and loving relationships. I've never met someone who attained, the remarkable status of a billionaire or a multimillionaire or the CEO or the most successful person or expert in their field who didn't love what they were doing. Maybe they didn't love it every day, and that's a mistake. That every day is supposed to be perfect and joyous and abundant and oh my gosh, perfect. No, there's lots of days that aren't, but they're on what I would call a loving path. They're on a loving path. They love what they're doing. They might not even know what the career is, but every time they do that one thing, they feel a connection to it that's different than other things. There's more interest, more passion, more depth, more excitement, more something there. And we haven't been taught to pursue those things. Especially when we're young, we're taught to pursue avenues that lead to a specific result that society has said is good. We'll do this job because it leads to that salary. Instead of asking, what do you like doing? What are you interested in? What draws your passion? What do you love actually spending your time on?
Rule number 4, integrate the wins.
Integration. What does that mean? I was talking about this with so many friends who have had so many wins, right? Successes, and they don't feel like a success yet. So good things have happened to themselves, but they haven't integrated that they are good, right? It's that person who never feels satisfied, who always feels a lack, who never feels high self-worth. Why? Because even though the good things are happening, even though they've made things happen, they've never put their hand on their heart and integrated the good things into their identity. So everything else just bounces off. That if we want meaning and fulfillment to happen in our lives, when meaningful things happen, we have to integrate them into our life. We have to say, that was meaningful. And you almost have to pull it right into your body, in your mind, in your heart. You have to say, I felt that.